just building again a new fortress and a new fortress. Where is the resistance? This is also peace policy. And we really have to think about, rethink how we focus in our peace policy strategies in Europe. Thank you. So the next post-war lessons, the new peace architecture for Europe. So we have a link to the former report, and the report will be made by Paul, yes, Paul, please.
Okay, hello. The question of our working group was how the future common purpose would look like, and how we can shape it and how we bring in a new generation. Because as Jean Connor has in his speech lined out, one of the big problems is that the peace movement that we are used to comes from the Vietnam era, and the topics of this time had in many ways subsided with the generation and become more moderate, and are not as much in the loop nowadays as many young people and people who are concerned with the current conflict. So what we see is especially that many of the institutions of peace and international institutions like the OSCE, but also the UN, have in many ways become defunct for the peace movement, in the way that the peace movement is not actually visible within them. There is discussions, but they are on the side, and what we see is basically the OSCE as a playground for NGOs who lack accountability and transparency, and we do not really see a coordinated effort within these institutions and within these NGOs to bring forth a common goal of peace. So to cite Granov, we are facing the morally criminal absence of conflict resolution in the current climate, and we have to reinvigorate our youth in order to partake in it. Because as I look in the audience, most of us are above 30, and in order to have sustainable success against the warmongering industries, we need to address these young people. We need to address them in their media. We need to find narratives that connect the then and now in a way that makes it memorable, and also invites them to come to the table, and also to bring forth experience and transform their own emotions of suffering, helplessness in the face of the economic despair, which is the other aspect of the peace movement, as the peace movements in the Vietnam era were they basically developed on an economic ascent, and we are now facing, unfortunately, an economic descent, which will make it very hard to motivate and to rally new movements, of course. So there is an important question: how do we deal with the economic descent we face, and how do we bring forth the fears of young people and also their hopes in order to bring them into the fold instead of alienating them, as we often like to do. So challenges are also in how to imagining the structure. How will the structure look after the transformation, especially in regard to the mutual perception in Eastern Europe? So we have this problem of the Western side of Eastern Europe, the post-Soviet side, and the Russian side. They look at each other with a whole lot of fear and historic misperceptions, but still they build on a common history and on a common culture. How can we bridge this gap between the perceptions that have come about after the fall of the Soviet Union, with generations of people who are deeply critical, and rightfully so, of the Soviet Union and Russia, and also on the other side, on the Russian side, which had under Putin a strong movement towards nationalism. How can we bring together these ideas and find a common culture and a common movement to reach a lasting peace? So it's very important, aside from the generation gap, also to find a resolution that is not based on blame, but based on communalities. And unfortunately, we have to reinvigorate also Austria's role in this, because Austria as an independent state is currently pretty much involved in all battle groups and discussions that revolve around funding the Ukraine war rather than stopping it, even though the rhetorics might seem peaceful, as we have read lately with the demining tanks. But I can use the demining tanks to demine an area that was mined and freed, but I can also use it to breach a mined area for an attack. So this is also a dual-use technology. So we have seen this generation in this post-Vietnam European youth a strong falling acceptance of the EU and also of the idea of Austrian neutrality, also pushed by capitalist media. And we need a lot of new proposals for a new European integration from the bottom up to force these institutions like the OECD and the UN, but also many others, to do their work for us and to do their work which we funded them for, actually. So, of course, as by the speakers before stated, it's very important to find a new way of international exchange. In my generation, the international exchange, like Erasmus, had a strong, I would say, weight on Western countries, but we also need generations who are part of an international exchange with the Asian countries, with China, with Turkey, with Russia. We need a young generation to learn languages that are, to not just learn English as a second language, but also to learn other languages. Even though we are facing AI, we need people who also talk Russian and Chinese in order to integrate this world in a future peace process. So it's very important to nurture this interaction as an elation of our problems, because as soon as we interact, we find our commonalities and we find topics that we can stick to and we can find common ground, instead of a piece of frustrations which leaves both sides in a deadlock, frustrated over the goals they could not achieve. So we have to go back from a mutual threat to mutual security and mutual security interests. And as one of our members has also said, we have to go away from the idea of just meeting in the middle. We don't have to just mediate, but we also have to go past the middle and transcend. Yes. So we have to take our agreements and build on them. So a very important aspect of this is the common framework for energy. So we have to build up this connection, not just institutional, personal, and in the media, but it has to be built on a common economic idea. We are all capitalist nations by now, so this problem is in the past, but also on a civil society and in the end on a federational level. So to add to this, it's very important that we create nuclear-free zones, especially in many of the contested areas like Ukraine, but also the Arctic and many other regions like Africa, and go away from a North Atlantic treaty organization to a North Atlantic peace organization, or NAPO instead of NAFO. So, and as a last slogan, I just want to give you one sentence. We need to give peace a budget. Thank you very much.